Good afternoon to Willa.
Yeah, good afternoon to Willa. I hope everyone's enjoying a good drink. Tonight we got ourselves some Newcastle Brown Ale, and we're talking with Tim O'Connor, who is he's out of New York State, and I know that may throw some people off because we're a local show. But
We've already had one person comment, why are we talking to someone from New York?
yeah, but he's running different. He's running Libertarian in New York, and for anyone who follows the party, you got Larry Sharp running up there. He was running for governor, which that was kind of exciting to get some pressure from a freedom loving party. And so Tim here is running in what district is it in New York?
New York State Senate District 51. It is basically the heart, the agricultural center, and it used to be basically an industrial dynamo. It used to have a lot of people. It's about the size of Connecticut, so it's absolutely huge. And so here I am trying to make a difference for Liberty, right? I met Larry. He brought me on his show. He came up to our county a couple times, and I just knew all of a sudden I wasn't insane. Like I've been talking Liberty for a long time.
Yeah, you had these ideas that sounded crazy when you talk to other people. Yeah, I can understand that. I can, I started out, I don't know, 10 years ago down a Libertarian Party path, and I've since then gone further, but it's been exciting, working out your ideals, and it allows you to take a step back and look at some of the possibilities in a different way, and definitely try to slide the government out.
Yeah. One of my favorite things to date has been meeting guys like you who don't look at me like I have two heads. We have these conversations, and what we talk about makes sense to me, and it makes sense to some people that like the way that I think. And I feel like things are growing just a little bit. And so, and again, I give Larry Sharp a lot of credit for that. He laid it on the line, man. He visited every county in New York at least twice. So, and sharing his ideas and hearing him talk, and you're like, okay, that makes sense to me,
Yeah, he fought a hard fight. Fight.
He didn't stop.
Yeah.
There you go.
And matter of fact, we're competing with him right now. He's going live right now with one of his Facebook shows. But yeah, he fought a real hard fight. And I don't know, I would like to see, even if we got state Senate districts flipped Libertarian through all the states, that's just a little bit of saturation for a different idea to be heard. We'll probably not get a president. Let's just be honest. We'll probably not even get many of the federal Senate or congressional seats. But if we can get some of the state level stuff done, and that's where it matters really, is the more local you get.
One of my goals is to reinvigorate our local communities, where we start talking about New York State, and probably every state, they have mandates that they hand down to the school systems and they hand down to the counties. And so these guys are struggling to meet a budget at the demands of state level decision making. And it's not working. Like our communities in upstate New York and all over, they're shrinking, and they're shrinking at rates like 4% a year, 3% a year. And I get it, man. People can't handle the burden of taxation. They can't handle the burden of virtue signaling, and they can't even help their neighbor because they can't afford to. And it gets that part of it gets depressing. You know what I mean? And we're fighting this battle that it's hard to win. We're answering the demands of legislation basically crafted out of New York City. And when we look around and we see houses falling in the ground and farms closing up, somebody's got to fight that battle, and hopefully I'm one of the guys that can do it. We have 6 libertarians running for New York State Senate in our state.
Really?
And hopefully we get 1 or 2 of them on board there.
Yeah, 6 of them running in one state. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I don't think I think we have a lot of libertarian leaning Republicans running, but we don't have any declared libertarians running.
Yeah.
Now, when you say taxes are high in New York, I want to go into a comparison of, because one thing that we like to do in Tooele, we love to complain about our tax hikes because
All
we've
right.
had a couple these past few years. So let's say you got a 3-bedroom house in Tooele, you're paying about, I think 100% tax would be what would you say, about 2,500 or
Yeah,
$2,000
somewhere around that. Yeah.
Okay. So
annual.
what would it be in upstate New York right about now?
Well, in a small city, it would be around $4,000. All right.
About double what we're. So
Yeah,
a cigarette tax just moved onto the house.
and even I live out in a rural community, and I have a 3-bedroom place, 50 by 100 lot that's on the water, which is very lucky, right? I bought this this old house, and I bought it because it was on the water, and I enjoy being close to the water. But my taxes are running $3,000 a year. I don't think I could. I think the actual assessed value somewhere around $150,000. So I don't know how that
That's
compares.
the value of the house, 150,000 for the property, and a $3,000 tax.
Yeah, that's how they do an assessment. Then they charge off of that. So
That's a heavy tax.
I agree.
So we just had a big tax hike 2 years ago. It was 100% tax hike, and that $2,000 to 2,500, that'd be on a house that probably values it around 250 to 300. You know.
Oh my God.
Oh, that's a big difference on taxes.
It's paradise out here, Tim.
Yeah, it is. It sounds like a tax paradise. Like, I don't think I could sell my house for about 150, maybe 140. I don't know. It'd be tough to, because as a contractor, you take on little projects and you never finish them. I don't know if you guys know any contractors, but that's absolutely real. Okay. Your house gets fixed last.
My dad's an auto body man, and
Yeah.
he's never driven a shiny painted car.
Exactly.
It's the same thing.
I have a story about assessments too for New York, because everybody in New York, every bureaucrat in New York, from the county executives down to the tax assessors of the tax collectors of your local town, they have to make budgets. So I bought a place, fully depreciated, 35-year-old, double wide on it. The lady was behind in her taxes. I bought it for like $15,000, and she was grateful to get out of it. The first year assessment, I bought it for 15. The first year assessment comes back at $95,000. We had asked our local tax lady to fix that, and she's like, I'm like, we just paid 15, just reassess it at 15 because that's what it's worth. And she's like, oh, that's not how that works. You're going to have to go to court if you think you're going to get there. And it's like, I bought it to try to fix it up and offer affordable housing. And that's the kind of help you get from your bureaucrats. You know what I mean? They're kind of against you right from the start.
Well, you're just a number to them.
Yeah. Balance the budget, man.
Yeah. And it's, I don't know. The answer is smaller government. The answer is government needing to take less from its people. But how to get there, I think, is the hard question. I mean, I know what I would do. I would tell them tomorrow, go find a real job and, enjoy your life. But, me standing alone telling them to go find a real job doesn't work.
Feels good at the moment, I bet. But
oh yeah.
I mean, you're not quite standing alone, but there's not quite enough of us either. You know what I mean? Because everybody, all my small government Republican friends, my former conservative, that's where I kind of came from, was this. I grew up in a liberal household. I grew up in a relatively poor household. And I'm sorry, Mom, if you see this, but we didn't have a lot of money. You know what I mean? And every time we turned around, the government would try to help us, but it would be like we were addicted to a program, and then they'd change the program and they'd make things tougher. And then that program would never go away. There was no solution to that program. So along came Reagan in the 80s. I don't know if you guys probably old enough to remember him and his small government philosophy. And yeah, he spent too much money too, just like everybody else. But at least he kind of brought the notion of government isn't solving problems, government is creating problems and keeping those problems going. And in New York, we're just caught in the death throes of that. We're literally chasing people out of here because there's no jobs. Farming is too expensive and it's a rough lifestyle.
Yeah. Yeah. That is tough. It would have been nice had Reagan actually lived up to his rhetoric.
Correct. I
Um,
agree with you, man. I do.
he did not. And I think he went too deep in on the military as well. He started a new path for the military being
Yeah.
way oversized and over budget.
I don't think the military is oversized. I just think there's like your guest said previously, there's too many rules of engagement on us to really be efficient. So I mean, we could do so much more with so much less in the military. But when you have lawyers embedded in your squads, and I mean, there are just way too many rules, red tape, and it's just mostly political engagements they put us in, and they're more interested in preserving the local thought process as a positive maneuver for their political games than they are really lives of their troops or whatnot.
Yeah, we do a lot of protecting religious stuff and we do a lot of protecting economic stuff. And I'm just kind of like, I'm at an age where my kid's 14. If he wants to join the military, do I want him shipped overseas to defend an oil field? I really don't, man. You know, like I understand the need for a defense, and I understand the need to be able to respond to world threats that are actual real threats. But I don't want these kids sacrificing their lives for monetary free flow of oil when we can develop that stuff here. We can develop alternative energies. I don't care, man. We can develop answers that won't cost us blood and treasure. You know. So yeah, man, make it smaller. Stop fighting wars on behalf of like Great Britain and NATO. Like, let's stop doing that.
Or Raytheon or,
Yeah, there you go.
or General Electric. Let's, you know, but I'm completely with you. I don't think there's any reason for us to be playing around over in that sandbox. But I want to switch gears. We've talked a little bit. I mean, right now we're just having a circle jerk about how the government messes everything up. But let's focus in on what you got. What's your hurdles you're jumping through running right now? Who are you running against? Let's go with that first.
All right, so I've got two guys I'm running against, and honestly, they're okay guys. They're okay human beings. They try hard to serve their community, but their frame of reference is, let's beg Governor Cuomo for permission to do this. Let's beg Governor Cuomo for permission to do that. The Democrat that I'm running against is actually like, we need to cut taxes for small business. The Republican I'm running against is saying, Cuomo needs to let us open up more of our own businesses. And I'm kind of like sitting here going, guys, number one, we can answer those demands on the local level. It's guaranteed to us by the United States Constitution, and it's guaranteed to us by the New York State Constitution. We can start answering those demands ourselves. And my views are free, man. They can borrow them, they can use them, they can exploit them. I don't care. If we don't do something about taxes, people are gone. And honestly, New York State probably going to be facing bankruptcy anyway in the course of the next few years. We were broke before COVID, and flatten the curve became flatten the economy. I don't understand it. You know what I mean? We're fighting this battle. So that's the hurdles I'm getting. These guys have more money than me, obviously. Like, I'm a libertarian, whatever. They have party backing. They were able to pay for petitioners to go and get their signatures for them, and I had to go get my own signatures. And of course, somehow that turned into, I didn't know who I was and I didn't know where I lived because I was the signator at the bottom of my own petitions. So these guys somehow proved to the New York State Board of Elections that I didn't know who I was and I didn't know where I lived, which was pretty offensive to me, really. It's like this political game just to
Well,
prop themselves up.
they went to the Board of Elections, laid that case out. Were you brought in on that conversation?
I was, yeah.
And so when you said, no, this is me, look, I have an ID, I have social security card. Look, you guys tax me for this place.
Yep.
And the Board of Elections still went along with saying, nah, okay. First of all, in my opinion, the Board of Elections should be tarred and feathered because they
love
act
it, brother.
corrupt madness.
It was madness, man. I even went after they sent me my letter of determination that proved I didn't know who I was or where I lived.
They mailed you at your address with your fucking name on it.
Yep.
This said, hey, Tim,
You don't
you don't know who you are. You
Yeah.
oh, you've got to be shitting me.
No, it came down. Let me give the whole
Can you
derail.
pack this to any of those guys so they can hear me call them fucking ass faces?
Oh yeah, I love it,
Tim,
man.
did the
Yeah, that's awesome.
work together? Did they work together and reach across the aisle with each other to smear you like that?
I wish. We get to blame Republicans for this one. All right. It was two Republicans kind of collaborated and came up with exactly the same objections. And what they object to is, and guys, I've lived in this house for 25 years. I've been writing the same address for 25 years on every single piece of mail, every single driver's license, every single thing. My taxes come to this address, right? I vote in the town of Milford, but all my mail gets circulated through the Maryland mailbox, post office. So I wrote Maryland because that's what matched my driver's license. If they're going to ID me, there it is, Maryland, New York. They said, because I vote in Milford, I didn't know my town. And it's like, I voted in Milford for 24 years, brothers. What? And then I go to the Board of Elections and I'm like, this is me. Here's the determination. And they're like, sorry, that's just the way it works. And I'm like, oh my God. Hang on. Check this out though, guys. Right here. You look at this thing, that is like 3 inches thick. That is the help the Board of Elections offered me, man. They gave me a book on New York State election law. Like, thank you very much.
Bitches.
Not even the audio version, huh?
How much does tar cost?
What's that?
I'll buy you the tar. Dave
Oh,
will buy you the feathers.
we could butcher a couple chickens for free, and a bucket of tar is like $20.
And we'll get to eat after.
That's right.
I love eating a good vegetable. Bring the chicken on.
You
There
see,
you go.
you got to use the system against us, the normal people. It's called soft tyranny when they use all these laws and regulations against us when it suits their needs. And that's what it is. The system is a weapon. The laws are a weapon against us. They're not here to help us for the majority. Otherwise, they wouldn't be that thick.
I agree with you. There's no way a guy like me who's lived his life as a problem-solving contractor would be able to take that book and understand every single piece of it and answer every demand. They would get me off the ballot at some point somehow, right?
Well,
Isn't
they'd add
that
a page at the end of the book?
what's that?
You met everything in the book. They'd add a page.
Exactly, man. That's the
An
system
addendum.
we're working against.
And you've got to pay them to go online to their special, WeDick.org and read it. And no, that's what they do. It's ridiculous. It's and that's the heart of where the government's the issue is. One, they throw a barrier to entry so that the regular people can't voice their concerns even. And then, they move up higher and higher and you can't even get in contact with them. It's crazy.
And then when you do get in contact with them and you tell them your problems and you try to explain to them that the law in New York State says we can answer these problems on our own, they give you this look like, oh yeah, that would be nice, but last legislative session we passed a law that says you can't do that anymore. And then you go look for that law and it doesn't even exist. And
Yeah.
it's like, thanks for your sympathy, man, but I know what you're doing. I know what you're up to.
Well, it's gotten to where political appointment is a job and not a service, and that's
Yeah, yeah.
killing us. Political appointment should be a service that you do. It should be something you see a leak in the wall, you get in there to fix that leak, and then you get out because you got a regular 9 to 5 that you want to cover.
Well, I love that perspective, man. And believe me, New York State deliberately moves further and further away from that. We have bureaucrats, again, like I mentioned earlier, man. They are charged with meeting budgets, and they are charged with this adversarial process from almost everywhere you look in New York State, from going to the DMV to going to family court to going to try to talk to your tax assessor about the assessment on the property that you just paid $15,000 for, that they keep it at $95,000 for an extra $2,000 in taxes. Instead of letting me be able to take that $2,000 and start trying to build something that could actually benefit the community, because everybody in New York complains about how there's no affordable housing, but we have houses in Senate District 51 falling into the ground. And so there's an adversarial process and no one's looking at it. They're like, get some money together, give it to a contractor, and he'll build a housing complex. And it's like, what are you talking about? We have housing. We just got to make it interesting for people who want to get in there and do the work. And so kids leave. I have a 28-year-old moved to Virginia. She's not coming back. She's working as a lawyer, and she does things like telemedicine. So she's like, and weed legalization. She's working on that. So she has this incredibly interesting life, and she actually is making money someplace else. We could use her talent here. The community helped create her, but now she's gone and she's not coming back. You know what I mean? Like it's that kind of frustration that made me decide to run.
Maybe eventually enough people will leave that there's a reset just naturally.
Yeah, the people that are leaving are people like me that okay can go someplace else, and if I go someplace else, I'll find something to do that will make me a living, right?
Contractor, you can drop your butt anywhere and be just fine.
Just pick up a hammer and nails, man. Start offering prices. It's a simple system, you know.
You could say, hey, I can come in and finish basements in any state in the union. I can do whatever, I can build sheds. So
Yeah.
that's one good thing. I mean, you hear that New York's emptying out and they're heading to Florida and South Carolina. Those states are swelling and gaining all those people. But then again, they're gaining a lot of their ideas. So I guess we'll look at them empty out in 30 years.
Yeah.
Then people will go back to New York because New York will have reset, maybe, hopefully.
Yeah, well, I hope so, and like, look, I ain't got 30 years left. I'm 50 something, you know what I mean? Like, I'm going to do what I can do. I want New York to be interesting for this next generation. I have 2 more kids, 14, 16, right? And do I have the time to fix New York before they move to another state? Probably not, but am I willing to give it a shot? If I get a job making what these senators make and what they get per diem, and I put them on my campaign staff, it'll be perfect for them. And keep them around and keep them interested.
Yeah.
So what about the struggle between upstate and New York City? Can you tell us a little bit about your location? Like, how do they feel about people from the city? Is there a movement to, I remember seeing on the internet a movement to kind of like separate, and is there talk about that kind of stuff up there?
Well, we see what happened in Seattle, right? They just said, listen, this is ours, get out. So there is a lot of discussion. People think of that as a possible solution, right? That we just say, we're not part of New York City, can be its own state. We'll take Long Island and upstate because our political philosophy matches. Then people come back with, well, the city pays the bills for the state. I'm an economics guy, okay? I have an economics degree. I read the articles, I read the studies, and I'm not really buying it, because you look at the MTA and the Mass Transit Authority in New York City, and that loses like $7 billion a year. So overall, New York City is supposed to contribute $6 billion a year to the New York State economy. And then the mass transit itself loses $6 or $7 billion. So I think it's like a net wash. So people here, and especially in Senate District 51, we see that the impact of New York City decision making. They buried a few towns like 30 years ago to make a water supply for New York City. And so we're kind of like, that county has been shrinking exponentially faster than all the rest of the counties because they took this huge landmass and all these communities and just put them underwater to give New York City water. So there are a lot of people that are in favor of it. I'm absolutely in favor of the discussion. I don't even know, though, as a senator, wouldn't it, my platform would be to go to my local communities and say, look, let's start fighting the state here, because we're already granted that authority by the New York State Constitution and the United States Constitution, and encouraging them to even pay themselves more, just so it's more interesting, that piece of it. Managing the town's finances, managing the community's finances is that much more appealing. And then they can come up, craft ideas about zoning that aren't so exclusionary, that can have an impact on their future. Little businesses can grow in people's houses. And now we fight those things. And I've never understood why. You know, if a guy wants to have his doctor's office in his basement, let him have his doctor's office in his basement. Let it happen. And we fight those things. So why? I don't know. Separate from downstate, I think it's a great discussion. How effective will it be? I don't know, man. If they make DC a state, if Seattle, the Chud or the Chaz survives, I don't see why we can't do it.
Yeah. Well, the issue with that chode is that they're communists. They're already finding out how well that pans out. What are they up to now? 5 shooting deaths in 2 weeks.
Yeah. They don't have no food, man. They didn't think out their supply lines. I mean, honestly, right? If upstate New York was to do it,
Did you see their farm?
I think we could be successful. I'm just saying.
Did you see their farm up there?
Dude, it was hilarious. It's like, first of all, that fence is going to stop no one. When those tomatoes start growing, people are going to be, oh, it's green, but if I take it right now, I have it. There's no authority to defend your property. It's a community garden. That means you grab it.
They laid down cardboard, poured, planting soil on it, and then just stuck the plants in 2 inches deep of planting soil. Man, I hope there's not a slight breeze that day. It'll blow the plants
They
down.
didn't even put it in the soil. They
laid cardboard down on grass. Because grass will choke out the plants. But then again, the plants aren't going to grow through the cardboard.
Did you see the guy dancing? I was like, I think they're growing dancing. I'm not sure. There was a guy dancing in one of the communities.
I'm telling you, they need to sell. If they want to have a living, they need to sell, I don't know, TikTok videos of crazy people. And, they could sell purple wigs because, when they shave all their heads, because
There's a market.
Not a one of them know any practical skills.
Sad. And they go through the public school system, and that's what they learn. They really don't have any skills after.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. The thing is, they're also, wealthy or middle class white kids who hate that daddy went out and earned a living. I don't know.
I agree with you. One of the things that concerned me about the whole narrative that we were facing was like, oh, black people are rioting. And I'm like, I don't even know that it's black people. Like, that feels racist to me, man. It looks like crazy lunatics who are mad at their parents going in and breaking shit. You know what I mean? It's like, why would people that live in that community burn down their community? So I don't understand that.
The middle class white kids who went to college, daddy paid for college and college taught them to hate daddy. And so now they're out, thank you, college. It's ridiculous. So I want to, get back to the run because we can sit. I can bang on chode all day. It's happy.
Right.
So now you're on the ballot as what? Just a straight libertarian
So
check?
we're going all right in, right? So that
Okay.
may help some people transition to libertarianism. If I do the write-in thing, I'm a libertarian, but they can think, all right, that guy's an independent. We have an opportunity where I can hopefully pull in some Democrats, pull in some Republicans, and definitely those small government conservatives that know they haven't been served in decades. You know what I mean? Like,
You got some signs made that say, write in Tim O'Connor, make sure you had that write in on there. And
that's on the list, man. I'm doing the internet thing right now. We're trying to raise some money, but I don't know. I've got some money. I'm going to make some signs. We're going to get some things done. I
the
think we've got
Libertarian Party helping out at all? Is the party helping out at all? Or they?
Well, they can't, right? The Libertarian Party is a great structure, but we're all in the same boat. We're not crafting platitudes, and we're not offering to sell regulations. So those two things basically interfere with our ability to raise a lot of money. It's an ideology and it's a solution-based thing, but it doesn't attract the GMCs of the world to say here, or the insurance industries to say here's a pile of cash, go buy votes with that because we know you're going to write the right regulations for us. So it's a big, huge challenge. And as you know, we're like, individual liberty is where we live, right? That's our heart and soul. And that's how we get people to work with us. But we're actually really after individuals. So where's their money coming from, especially in a state like New York? So it's a challenge.
Get everyone in your district to donate $1. I'll bet that'd make a huge difference.
That would be $280,000. I could win this election in a heartbeat.
Yeah, you could print out signs. You could have people spinning in a costume like they do at the check cashing places. You could knock it out of the park.
Just buy them.
I'd love to, man. I'd love to.
Yeah, I'd like to. I would like to see. I wish Utah has a strong libertarian bent, but that mostly comes in on the Republican end. So they're all Republicans. Granted, they talk a good libertarian game, but seems like when you get Republicans in the same room, they start dreaming of ways to make the government stronger. I don't know.
I got an analogy, if you guys don't mind my sharing it, but you probably remember the Coke versus Pepsi wars back in the day, where Coke and Pepsi would go on TV and they'd craft, statements that was, putting down the other one. And really all they were doing was building their own market share and making themselves more powerful. And they crapped all over RC Cola. You know what I mean? Like that's what they did. Yeah, and that's what they do, man. They are building their own power base. Bipartisan is still partisan.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's tough. So you're going to end up being a write-in candidate.
Yes.
That just means that you've got to wear the soles out of your shoes.
It opens some doors in a way, though. You know what I mean? It kind of makes it.
Hey,
so
I won't vote for anyone I haven't shaken their hand of.
Okay.
That's my thing. I don't vote in the presidential elections. I've never met any of them.
Yeah. Can I ask you guys how your COVID response is out there? You guys all on lockdown or what?
Not only are we in Utah, but we're in rural Utah. I haven't missed a day of work. I have to wear a mask at work because, whatever.
That's the way.
But we don't have any mask laws out here in Tooele. And we didn't have any massive shutdowns, except in the food industry. I think they lost maybe 3 days, and then they went to a pickup. And now most places are letting people back in the doors, and everything's running back to normal. They keep saying that the numbers are high, but the deaths are low. So maybe that means COVID changed, or the testing parameters caused us to have more numbers. So we haven't had any really severe. I don't know if anyone watching, if they've got any points of reference that I haven't caught on to.
Yeah.
send us a message. But it seems pretty quiet. How is it there?
Well, that's one of the things that we're battling, right? That's where I start talking about how our local politicians are begging Andrew Cuomo for permission when our perspective on COVID has no similarity to what happened in New York City. Okay, has no similarity to what happened in Long Island. We've had somewhere around 85 confirmed cases and 5 confirmed deaths in Otsego County, and every death means something to somebody, and so that's important to remember. But we are still fighting whether we can open up our gyms. We're still limiting restaurants that weren't making any money to 50% capacity. And I don't know, man. I don't want to say it's an overreaction because I'm in New York and people get really mad when I say stuff like that. But I feel like we didn't take all of the factors into consideration accurately. People get in New York, they get upset over misinterpretation of statistics. Like I just heard you riff off on what's happening there and your statistics and what you guys have lost. And again, I go to this place in my brain where it's like, thank God there's other sane people in the world, man. That's all I can tell you.
Yeah. Well, Salt Lake City did a shutdown.
Yeah.
Just Salt Lake City. Now that's our biggest city. Granted, Salt Lake City is minuscule compared to any of the large cities in New York or damn near any other state. It's really small. I think we compete with Montana on city size, and the big winner is Wyoming. But so Dave's wife wrote in and said we've had a 168 dead so far in the state of Utah.
Yeah.
So the numbers aren't really that big.
And you got to also take into factor that a lot of these deaths that they're reporting, you know, I mean, if you're like 80 to 90 years old and you're dying of COVID and you got into a car accident or some police officer stepped on your neck, I mean, there's also other factors that go into these death counts.
Yeah.
So, you know, like they say, 90% of statistics are skewed. So I take it all with a grain of salt, man.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem that different than the flu, does it? I mean,
I think I had it already myself.
Yeah.
I haven't been tested, but you know, I've got a neighbor who tested positive, and he's like, yeah, I had the sniffles and some muscle aches, and he's like drinking beer outside while he's, you know, quarantining himself, and then I've got
doing it for America.
But it hit hard in Brazil. I will say that we've got family members in Brazil. It's definitely taken a toll on us there, and we haven't had any deaths in our family in Brazil, but people close to us in Brazil, we have. Yeah. So it's, and I don't like to call it a virus. I like to call it a biological weapon because there are genetic markers in the structure of this COVID that are pretty what's the word, conspicuous, that have been gene edited. And you know, this was a bioweapon, and I have a really hard time with people not acknowledging that. So because it's my belief, and I would bet my Bitcoin on it, that this is a bioweapon, I can't blame the government for overreacting. You know, when you're getting mortared, you take cover.
Right.
Behind. So.
Yeah, I waft back and forth on what any of it is. I just think that economic suicide for this number of sick and fatalities doesn't sound like a trade-off that's going to pan out well in the long run. And then on top of that, add in the federal government just dumped, what was it, $4.5 trillion into it, or 6 trillion. You try putting trillion into your damn iPhone. Your iPhone can't count to 1 trillion.
Seriously?
No, you can't put 1 trillion into your iPhone.
Why?
And we just dumped that into an economy. So what does that do? Inflation and debt at the same time? Well, keep it going. This is a great idea.
Press print.
One of like I said, I studied economics, guys, and so we've broken every single rule that I was taught was inappropriate about how to build a money supply. So if we can just create money by fiat, why does anybody got to pay taxes anywhere? So I know that's almost as insane as anything else, but why not? Why can't we have that argument?
If we're
make more
just
money.
Yeah, if we're just printing money, why do we have taxes?
We
I
could
think
have a
that's
Tim-
just to keep us subservient.
We could have a Tim coin
Punish your
that's worth $1
friend.
trillion, a Jared coin that's worth $1 trillion, and a Dave coin that's worth $1 trillion. That's $3 more trillion we can just add right to it.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Taxes
My
are to
coin would
punish
be
people.
worth debt. Let's be honest. I mean, Dave's got some value. You're running for something. Me, I'm just a caveman that learned how to talk. So.
You run the podcast.
Yeah.
I'm an agent contractor, man. What's my margin? I don't know. You know what I mean? I'm a realist.
You went to school for economics and then
Yes.
said, I'm going to go do contracting.
I was a case worker for a while. I managed a restaurant, a couple of restaurants. And then at one point, like, my imagination grabbed hold of me and I'm like, well, I can paint houses, right? I'll read a couple books, I'll go paint houses. And I'm like, well, you know what else I could do? I could build decks. I'm going to read a book, I could build some decks. And then people liked me and they would say, well, can you figure out we just had all this water damage. Can you figure out how to fix that? And I'd be like, let me hire a guy. Let me talk to a guy. Let me do this. So, it turned into something for a while. Then I got sick of having employees and it's like, here I am. I'm an agent contractor and I want to be a politician. Hire me.
Hey, well, I like that you're an actual person that went out and took a chance on the market.
Oh, yeah. I've taken millions of chances. Most of them are horrible failures, but I've taken lots of chances. I'm not afraid to take chances.
Failure is the gateway to success.
That's okay. I'm still waiting, but I'm going to keep trying.
Back in the gate.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Dave works for his beloved government, and me,
right.
I work at a salt plant, doing,
I like to call it a salt mine.
salt mine, salt plant,
All right.
it's all good. So I want to bring it back to Tooele for a minute.
Okay.
Well, you've heard a little bit about what we've got going on. We don't have any libertarians running, but I'm not sure whether there is an opening in the market for a libertarian, because our Republicans tend to have more libertarian leanings, at least in their rhetoric. And maybe one day I'll see him do a libertarian action, but their rhetoric's all the Republicans across the board. If you just heard them talk, you would think they were libertarians. What advice do you have for, say, Tooele? If your fight's obviously harder, you've got a much stronger government, I guess, backing there. Government has more backbone and more teeth there.
Yeah, power, lots of power. The government has all the power here.
Well, they took your guns away, didn't they?
They basically, no, they haven't taken our guns away, but they're working on it. Every legislative session, they're doing something to take guns out of the hands of poor people, to take guns out of the hands of literally out of minority people. And they use economic strategy, and they use red flag laws, which means if they think you're crazy, they come and take your weaponry. If you get into an argument with your spouse or significant other and they feel threatened, they come take your weapons from you. And so, yes, they're working hard at limiting our access to which as a libertarian, I get a lot of support. Basically, I'm saying I'm more two-way, pro two-way than anybody else in the state. Basically, it's very easy position for me to take. It's very easy for me to say, look at New York City and the problems that they're having and how law-abiding citizens have to pay thousands of dollars to carry a weapon. It's like only rich people have guns then, not law-abiding citizens. We don't care anymore. It could be rich, dirty, corrupt people can have guns to protect everything, but poor law-abiding citizens cannot. And that is going to play out. It is playing out.
Yeah, that's tough. That's a big push coming from the coast. elimination of self-defense.
Yeah.
A big push, and it hasn't really reached out here. I know Salt Lake City, if it had its druthers, it would, arm everyone with petunias and, harshly worded letters. But out here in Tooele, we're a very heavily armed county. And most people have, the evil weapons that are of the wrong color and
Right.
look scary.
Yeah,
And our society is a polite society, right? That goes all the way back to the founding of the country.
we demonstrated that Friday. We had our first Black Lives Matter protest, and they assembled at the park where our statues are, and all the bikers and the patriots and the residents, let's just call them residents. Well, all the residents came out armed to the teeth and smiling at each other and shaking hands, and they all got together, Black Lives Mattered and residents, and they marched peacefully.
Yeah.
They did
I
their
love that,
protest.
brother. I love that. There's a point that they're making that we can all take something from, I think.
Yep.
Like, and I say they, I don't even mean they. There's a point we're making with that movement that we can all, our whole society can learn something from. And it's stuff like that makes it work, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. And hopefully we can move towards, I mean, I like what Thomas Massey and Rand Paul, what they've been putting forward, ending no-knock search warrants, ending qualified immunity, make it so that when those cops are getting ready to hop out of that fancy painted minivan to go kick some doors in because the guy may have been growing a plant or usually the wrong address and they end up hurting an innocent person.
Oh yeah.
That they're going to make it so they think twice and they double check the address, and maybe when they go to the courts, the judge is going to say, you want to hit this because the guy may have a potted marijuana plant or whatever else. Let's think about this. Can't you stop and talk to him tomorrow? Say when he gets off work, just meet him in his driveway
Catch him at the grocery store.
and chat with him. Yeah. And hopefully those get pushed through, but so far they're getting those are getting shut down because I don't know. I guess the state's no good without force and violence.
Yeah, well, they bundle bills like that. You never get a clean bill. You can't get a clean bill from the guy who proposes its hand to the floor and then move it to the Senate. It's, well, let's bundle on this, let's bundle on that, and then let's take the teeth out of that bill and put the teeth in on some other program that spends money and doesn't mean anything. And we've all seen that a million times,
Yeah.
So that's why it hasn't gone through. And that's why when it goes to the Senate, it won't go through. It's just, that's how that works.
Yeah. Just keep it messy and ugly.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, now go ahead and share this on your page, of course, share it on your page and you can link to it, whatever else, free use, of course, because you put your face on it. So
All right.
I'll just put the call out now. Free use on anything we do because, use it. And
We're cheap.
If it helps the cause, please use it. But, what message do you want to throw out to your constituents?
All right. So my constituents, they know who I am, right? What I want to do is thank guys like you who are taking proactive steps to share the words of liberty, okay? To share libertarianism. Your minarchist positions are fine, like they work, okay? We have rights, we have responsibilities, and we're all ready to step up and take advantage of those. When we look at Senate District 51, we've got to lower taxes. We've got to make more people comfortable living where they're living, and we got to get rid of this omnipresent state that you just feel like you're going to take a wrong turn and wake up with a boot on your neck. And mostly that means it's just going to cost you money for something, be it a headlight or a bad license plate, but it costs you thousands of dollars. We've got to do better by our people. We've got to make it more interesting for our kids. And that's what I'm going to try to do, fellas, and so I appreciate the platform and I appreciate your time.
Yeah. Yeah. And anytime you got something to throw out, we'll throw something together. You can throw up on your website or on your Facebook page.
I love it, man. Thank you very much.
Best of luck to you, Tim.
Yeah.
Thank
And
you very much, guys.
Yeah, I'll reach out to some of the stuff in some of the people in New York that are pushing the libertarian message and throw your name at them. Hopefully they pick you up and
Oh,
we can
brother, I'd love that, man. That's how it works, right? We're trying to grow, I guess it's fame, but we're trying to plant seeds in people's minds. You know, we're arguing a philosophy. So I'd love that. Anything I can do,
yeah.
it's great.
Heck yeah.
It seems like it's working good for the communists in college.
Oh.
So maybe we can plant some different seeds, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that's the question. Would I send my son to college or to the Marine Corps right now?
Yeah.
Ruin him quicker, you know. The Marine Corps gets him killed. College would make him change his hair color and
Otherwise,
wear
he
a
might
Che
like
Guevara.
trans afterwards.
Get him a truck and a circular saw and a couple nail guns.
Hey.
He'll be fine, man.
Yeah, he works at Home Depot. He's down there.
All right.
I'll tell you, they do not give him a discount because I've tried that game many times.
You know, you can always.
I can use your discount. Yeah, I just
I'll
can't.
look you up.
My son works there. They don't give him a discount. Pressing. All right, Tim. Thanks for coming on, man.
Oh, thank you guys for having me. This was great.
Yeah, I'll definitely reach out, throw your information at some people, and hopefully they pick it up. We're still nobodies, but hopefully our voices scream out into the ether and somebody
We're
hears.
all nobodies till we're somebody, brother. And I appreciate the effort, right? That's what we're doing.
Yeah. All right, sir. You have a good night.
Thank you, Tim.
And
Thank you,
make
guys.
sure you call you get back on here when the election's over. We'd
Let
like
us
to
know the
hear.
results.
Yeah.
All right. I'll do that. Thank you.
All right. Have a good night, man.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.